You know it must be warmer in Pittsburgh if Tom has their tits out. Hey Hoties, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom and thank you so much for clicking on this video. I have some new stuff I would like to play with on camera, some things that I have tested a little bit, some things that I've not tried yet, and I'm excited to get into it. We're gonna be doing a colorful look today because the brand Bellebeautébar asked if they could send a PR to me, and they sent me a couple of things, actually quite a few things. Some single shadows, this basic witch palette, and then brushes, and then these silicone applicators, which I've used some of the brushes. I've used one of the singles on camera already, but I haven't tried the basic witch palette. So we'll jump into that. If you happen to be new here, welcome. Just ride this video out. See if you enjoy the vibe. Okay, let's crack a cold one open. It's cola, by the way. Could you imagine if I was just like hammering beer? It's so funny to think about that. All right, let's start with the eyeshadow today because it's a newer formula to me and like there might be fallout. I also want to maybe try some things that I haven't tried before. I'm just gonna really quickly, I've been applying this Dr. Dennis Gross thing at the beginning of every video. I don't even link it down below. I don't think it's worth your money, so I don't even really talk about it. But if you ever see me applying this beforehand, that's what it is. If you see me applying this, this is what it is. If you see me not applying this, then it's not what this is. It's like 65 degrees and I'm like, woo! I could go outside like essentially naked right now and I'd be like, cool bet. I'm gonna prime my eyes with the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base and I'm gonna set it with a cream eyeshadow and then we will jump into the eyeshadows from the basic witch palette and take a look at it and all of that jazz.
Everything is music. When I go home, I throw knickers into the oven and it's music. Crash, boom, bang, choo-ba-cha.
Come on, babe, why don't we paint the town? Come on, babe, I know what would be spot where the gin is cold, but the piano's hot. Did any of you see the footage of that very impassioned young person singing the national anthem in the craziest American getup? To be relentlessly bullied by adults on the internet. Am I right? But it is funny. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's kind of funny. Let's talk about this Bellebeautébar eyeshadow palette. When I first looked at this, I was like, okay, it's a pink purple palette. And then I looked at it some more and I'm like, okay, there's some like other things happening here. Largely pink and purple. Then we have this mustardy yellow, which if you know, you know I love that. We have this like acid kind of green shade down here. And then this might be a black, but it also looks really purple to me. So if it's just a dark purple, that's also okay, but it is called Black Cat. And then, so it's kind of like, I don't know what to make of those couple of shades. Instinctively, I want to do a pink look. I think that I'm gonna have to play with this palette quite a few times to like really sort my feelings out on it. Bellebeautébar also sent me some brushes and I'm not sure if they actually like make these brushes or if these are private labeled brushes. I'm gonna assume private labeled brushes, which does not bother me, by the way, but it is nice to be able to like offer brushes on your website. And so here are the eyeshadow brushes. None of these shapes really inspire me, but they have that going for them because it's really fun. I enjoyed that. However, because I sit them in like a mug, it just like all kind of collects at the bottom until I do that. But like I'm not really doing that whenever I'm doing my makeup. The amusement is fun, but a little bit lost on me in the way I store my brushes. Then we have some face brushes and we'll use those today because I will be using some like other, you know, powder products. But I will tell you that this brush, every brush company should be making brushes shaped like this. I will have to check the website. I'll pop it in just to let you know if you can buy these individually. And we have the silicone applicators, which I think we're going to try using today. I just want to use my favorite brushes for eyeshadow and see how it goes and then go from there to see if I need to switch things up. We are crafting an eyeshadow look. Oh, so I'm going to use that. I don't know what I was saying. My brain was just forming words. I'm going to go into the shade Glinda. I'm going to kick this off. I'm curious how pigmented these will be. I have used one of their shimmers from their singles collection and I really liked it. I wore it in my, I think the last video I posted, the one where I talked about my budget from last year for February. It's a lovely pink. Wow, it doesn't look as pigmented on camera. Not that it's like a super pigmented shade, but like it's reading a lot less. The thing about soft pinks I've learned in my time as a YouTuber, and I think this is because I also have like some pink undertones in my skin. I find like anytime I do like a soft pink transition, it kind of looks like I'm not doing anything. It just kind of looks like I'm applying nothing on the eye. I think what I want to do is try to do something graphic with a shimmer and kind of do like mattes all over the lid. I don't know if I'm going to be like talented enough to do that, and I might have to like shut my whore mouth for a little bit while I do that. I'm gonna do that. Everyone on Instagram is so inspiring, but people who do that on Instagram, you see the final result. You didn't see how long it took them to do that. And if there's one thing that I'm not super super interested in, is taking a long time to do my makeup. Like for me, whenever I do these videos and I'm filming and applying makeup for a whole hour, it is so tedious to me. I enjoy it, but it is very tedious because if I were to do a lot of the makeup looks I do off camera, they would take me a half hour. Like I don't think that they would take me as long as they do in here. I'm talking, I'm blabbing, I'm having a good time, but it's like, this shouldn't have taken me this long. Okay, now I'm gonna go into the shade Conjure. Conjure, I know. Just have fun. Okay, I demand you to have fun. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, whoa, 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 whoa. That's like neon. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, and it just disturbed me. There's a Discord notification of all things. Why does Discord think it has the permission to interrupt me when I am filming? You know, like why does it think it's gonna do that to me? Let me form a thought about this pink that I just put on. It's super vibrant. What I'm finding, a lot of the times when I use palettes from indie brands, especially if they have bright mattes in them, I find that synthetic brushes are kind of the way it's like I have to use synthetic brushes because synthetic brushes, in my opinion, pick up a lot more pigment than natural hair brushes. But what I'm finding with these are kind of performing a lot like my favorite like expensive eyeshadow shades, like where it's like it's working well with my natural hair brushes, which is like a point because I do prefer, at least on my eyes, a natural hair brush. I kind of talked about brushes relatively recently in another video. I'm pretty impressed that it's able to pack that much punch with this natural hair brush. This is an old Wayne Goss brush. I highly recommend you watch my brush video, even if you're not really super interested in brushes, just to kind of catch the vibe of what I like to use brush-wise. I think tools can literally change how makeup applies. Again, I think it enhances the speed at which I could apply makeup just because my brushes perform really well. You know, as you have brushes for a long time, you know which brushes you like, which formulas. These pinks are applying really, really pretty. I'm wondering if they'll stain. I just wanted to follow up. I haven't noticed any staining. I think I'm gonna take this shade Hex. It's like lavender shade here. I'm gonna put it all over the lid because I think I want to keep everything mostly matte. Do you follow Mostly Matte on Instagram? You should. She does some really, really great looks. Also, I'm not sure that the moniker, she has a lot of sparkles, which is really lovely. The child is not in the house right now, so I just heard him say Tata, which is what he calls me, Phantom Tata. I don't think brights always blend the best, but I think that these did a really good job. So that's where we're at. So let's talk about these silicone applicators. If you're a patron of mine, you saw me try one for the first time, and I have since tried another one. They sent me a little packet of these silicone applicators. What I've surmised is that these are like to apply shimmers and get essentially the same kind of application you would if you used your finger. You know that I do a lot of finger painting whenever it comes to shimmers. I wondered if these would save me the hassle, and yes, I found that these pick up the shimmer really well. They apply the shimmers really well. I've only used glitter glue with them. I don't know if there would be more fallout if I didn't. There might be, but I find that it holds the pigment pretty well and that you kind of don't have to worry a lot about fallout. Like I've gotten a little bit of fallout, but like about as much as I would if I used my finger. So I've been really impressed with these. I like the idea of these. They sent me a bunch of shapes, and someone did respond to me on Instagram whenever I got this PR package. They were like, what would you possibly need all those shapes for? And I do disagree because they are different sizes, and I feel like you could really pinpoint where you want things to go. So what I'm going to attempt to do with a shimmer and these brushes, and I'm probably gonna not talk through it, is kind of do that thing where like I do a wing and then I like carry the wing over. You know what I mean? I've done that shape before, but not with like shimmers. So I'm going to start with this angle silicone applicator, and then I'm going to see where it takes me, and I will report back to you. I think I'm going to use the shade Witch Please. And if things go well, I might blend into Perfectly Wicked on the inner portion of my eyelid just to get another shimmer on. I promise to use this on camera a couple more times so we can do something like more regular so you can see a lot more of the shimmers. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in and show you what I did on this eye so you can see it up close. So do you see how I like kind of just like built the shape, did a wing, and then kind of pulled it over? And I did transition into the shade Perfectly Wicked. But I do want to kind of report back. I probably would have been easier if I like set the shape, like if I started the shape with a glitter primer. I don't know that it's just because these shades might be pressed a little bit softer, but whenever I put the angle brush in, it really like kicked up a lot and like kind of like dug into the shadow quite a bit, kicked things up, and then a lot of it got onto the side as opposed to on the top, and I feel like I lost precision with that. And then I switched to this liner brush, well, liner silicone applicator, and I found out I could be a lot more precise with that. And I was surprised that it picked up enough product to actually like show. So I'm going to try to match the other eye. I'm going to just use this one this time because I just feel like I had a lot more control over it. I don't know if you could see all of that, but I did the best I could. The thing is, the way the lighting's hitting me, it was really hard to do this side because it wasn't hitting, the light wasn't hitting this side the same as it was hitting the other side. So it was some of the, when I was applying, some of it looked invisible on top of the other pink. There's not much that tape can't fix as far as like cleaning up the line on the bottom. So I think we're good. I do think that this side I went out a little bit farther on, and I tried to match this side, but then I was like, I think my face is just uneven. Like I've talked about that before. Like this part of my face goes out flatter further before bending, and this side of my face bends faster backwards. And bends sooner, I guess. I don't know what. It's just a different shape, and that's okay. I don't need to be symmetrical. I wanted you zoomed out at the beginning so you could see my top, but you could just see the straps. So I'm going to just prime my face with an old favorite. Since it's warm out, I'm going to use the Victoria Beckham Priming Moisturizer in the golden shade. And I'm going to apply a product. I don't think I'm going to apply it on camera. I've worn on camera, but I don't think I've applied it. I think my patrons maybe saw me apply it, and I've had it for a little bit. But I also just kind of recently started testing it. Also, if I never mention it in a video, I try hard to remember what I meant, like got in PR, what I've paid for. If you ever look in my description box, which if you ever have a question or need reaffirmed on what I've discussed in the video, it's going to be in the description box. You just hit see more. And anything that has 2 stars before it is something that I received in PR, because that is important for you to know, right? Because it is different for me. I've mentioned this before. It's always different whenever you're getting stuff for free, how you judge it. I didn't pay for some of the stuff we're talking about today, so important to know. The next thing was also PR. CoverGirl sent me the Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence, and I'm using the shade Fair, 10, Fair. Now, they sent me the whole line. So I'm going to either find homes or donate the ones that don't match my skin tone. I just felt unnecessary for them to send the whole line. I can understand them sending me like maybe the lighter 3 shades, but I didn't need all of it. I'm going to apply it for you, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with it so far. It looks a little light at first, but just give it a second to like settle, and then we're going to apply like powders and bronzer and stuff. I'm a lot fairer than I think people think I am. I'm not like ghostly white or anything like that, but like that's the color of my shoulder. Like it's like I'm pretty fair. And I think that the redness in my face makes me appear a little bit deeper, you know, like maybe have more color to me than I actually do. So here it is all the way on my face. So it is like really dewy right now, and it does maintain dewiness, but it doesn't look this wet the whole time. And obviously I powder a lot of my complexion products, and I have been powdering this, and we'll talk about the powder in a second. This has been the foundation that I have actually been reaching for the most out of the testing drawer. Something I like to do is, like, if I'm going out and if I'm seeing people, I will take some things from the testing drawer, some things that like are tried and true, and kind of mix and match them. And when I go into my testing drawer, I'm like, I want to use one of my testing drawer foundations. This has been the one that I have chosen the most. As you can see, it is one of those situations that it's like pigment balls suspended in like a serum, I guess would be the best way to describe it. You may be familiar with the one from Chanel or the one from Rose Inc. I have tried the Rose Inc. one, and I have not tried the Chanel one. I've heard that they're pretty similar. I've seen some other people say that there are like nuanced differences to them. My experience with this is that I like this one better than the Rose Inc. one. The Rose Inc. one, I sometimes really liked the way it looked on me, and other times I didn't. And I've not felt that way about this one yet. I really truly have just every time has been a banger of an application with it. I don't know what's different about this formula that seemingly makes it work a little bit better. I have one big question about this that I need to do a little bit of research on. So it's 0.5% bakuchiol. And bakuchiol is a plant-based retinol alternative. If it's a retinol alternative, that means that it's increasing cell turnover. Anything that increases cell turnover or exfoliates essentially is something that's going to make your skin more sensitive to the sun. For something that you'd be wearing during the day, a lot of times I apply all of my retinol and all of my like exfoliating products, most of them. I do some gentle exfoliating in the morning. That's because I have oily skin though. So like my skin can handle a little more exfoliation. But for there to be that in here, I don't know how if bakuchiol makes your skin more sun sensitive. I have to imagine it does. Just like deductive reasoning as an esthetician makes me believe that, but I'll have to look into it. So that is the only thing that makes me feel a little bit sus about this. Everything else though has been a kind of a win. I've only applied it with a brush so far. And the reason I've applied that with a brush so far is that I like to break up those pigments on my mixing palette. A lot of people would do that on the back of their hand. In my experience with the Skin Ink one, like breaking it up between my fingers, it worked, but it wasn't my favorite way to apply it. And then I feel like sponges don't successfully do that either. So I've just kind of been gravitating toward applying it that way. I'm going to contour and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back to apply blush, and I haven't really been playing with the Sigma blushes. There's some other stuff from Sigma I've been reaching for quite a bit. I've been using the Sigma brushes quite a bit. Like they've really kind of worked their way into the rotation. They're forefront of the mind whenever I think of brushes, especially whenever I think of the ones that I'm testing. I think that so far, the eyeshadow brushes from Sigma, I prefer them to the eyeshadow brushes from BK Beauty. I think there are a lot of people who would feel differently about that, but that's how I feel. I've also used the Sigma bronzer a lot, and I'm going to also use it today. So those are two things that I've been like reaching for from Sigma quite a bit. And I haven't really given the blushes a lot of love. And I think that has to do kind of mostly with the shades that I was gifted. This is the shade Pashmina in their cream blush formula. It's a very lovely cream blush. It just works really well. I'm not really sure that this shade really matches the pinks, but I don't think it doesn't go. Look at that. Whenever I did the Sigma video, I had an overwhelming response of people who very much like Sigma products. We all kind of come to the same conclusion, is that Sigma makes really reliable products. And that's been my experience so far. It's just like, if you need something that you need to know that it's going to work in a specific color that Sigma provides, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. There's no like wow. Well, the eyeshadows were kind of a wow factor for me, but I think I was just not expecting them to be that good. I haven't used the eyeshadows because I think I jump around to eyeshadows a lot, and I think a lot of people do. I'm not one of those people, whenever I get a new eyeshadow palette, it becomes like what I'm devoted to. Now, single eyeshadows sometimes, like if I buy like a single eyeshadow in a palette, it becomes my obsession, but palettes don't work that way in my brain. That's just not how I think about them. So that's what it looks like on top, and it applied really well. The foundation's still there. The blush is still there. it's a lovely cream blush. So I think I need to move this more to the forefront of my mind whenever I'm doing my makeup if I feel like it's gonna, like a pop of coral is gonna work. It's not even like an overwhelming coral. It does remind me a lot of the ones that Khaki did, at least I think the shade Paloma. And I think I said this the first time I applied it, but the shade Paloma from Khaki's Summer Abroad collection, it reminds me a lot of that. So potentially if you missed out on that and you were looking for a similar color, maybe try Pashmina. Well, Sigma's not gonna have like the deeper options like Khaki's collection did where it was like, you know, levels. But if you happen to be fair and want something that looks like that and you missed out, I think that this is a really good option. I also think that, I don't know when they're gonna do it, but they are gonna release the hex codes of all of Khaki's shades so that you'd be able to buy them if you wanted to directly from Finding Ferdinand. But alternatively, you could try that. All right, let's get into powder. I went out of my way to buy the CoverGirl Simply Ageless Pressed Powder. I bought this. They did not send this to me. So a couple of interesting things in my shopping for this. This comes in a couple, well, I don't want to say many shades, but it is like a finishing powder. It's like a setting powder. So it doesn't have like an intense shade range, but it's not a foundation. I don't think it's supposed to be thought of as a foundation. Whenever I went to shop for this, I could only find the translucent one in the lighter shades. There's like a fair shade and like a light shade, but I really only found the medium, like tan and deeper shades available with the translucent one. So I don't know if they discontinued the lighter shades and kept the deeper shades. And then this is kind of like the be all end all for us with fairer skin. I haven't found that to be too much of a problem for me in my skin tone, but maybe if you are, like, if you fall into, like, the light medium, maybe you, I don't know. I just don't know what happened. It's kind of like a tenfold situation. My friend Danny, also known as Scars to Stars Beauty, here on YouTube and on Instagram, whenever I started my love affair and really enjoying my Chantecaille Perfect Blur finishing powder, she had recommended this to me as a dupe. So it had been on my radar for a while, and I just like kind of never got around to it. And then I watched Teresa's Dead, and Teresa has been loving this powder. So I was like, cool, it sounds like I'm gonna get on with this powder. But I never heard Teresa compare it to the Blur powder. And so I just like kind of had to get my thoughts on it. And I have some. I haven't tried this the most, but normally I do use it with the Essence. So since I got it. I mean, the compact, nothing to really write home about, you know, it's just normal. And then it also has a sponge on the bottom, if that's your gig. I'm a brush person. And what I will say, I think the thing that I was most surprised by, because Danny did describe it as a dupe, this is certainly a pressed powder. Let me get my Chantecaille Perfect Blur powder. And this is baked. And typically, whenever a product is baked in, it has that crisscross thing going on the bottom. And normally, baked products don't come in like a pan. See how there's no like rim around this, like pan that it's in? And see how this one has a pan around it? Yeah, so there's like kick up to this. One thing that the Chantecaille Perfect Blur powder does, it has like no kick up. Like when I press my brush into this, this has a little bit of kick up. I was surprised to find that. I don't know that I was expecting it to be baked, but I think the reason that the Perfect Blur powder from Chantecaille works as a finishing powder, and it's something that I like to buff into the skin. I think the reason it's like that is because it's baked. And sometimes I feel like baked powders are a little bit harder to get up. Not really highlighters, but like some powders, like mattes and like, I find that they're harder to pick up. So I find, and like, so buffing into the skin makes a little more sense. Anyway, that's just how my experience with things so far. I'm gonna take this brush from bellabeautébar. This is what I've been using as a powder brush even more recently. I know I just did that brush video and I talked about the Surratt brush, but there's something about the shape and the size of it. I just find that it like sweeps powder on really, really beautifully. I mean, the Surratt one does too, but this one's much more affordable. The only thing I would say is like, if it's not something you could buy on its own, I don't know that I would say that so far my experience with these brushes has been incredible enough that I feel like it would be worth buying the set. Here we are powdered. As you can see, you still have some luminosity from what's going on underneath, the product underneath. And I don't powder right on the cheek normally. Like I normally don't powder over that, but we will today, just so you can see. And it does a really beautiful job blurring. Here's the untouched side. It's a beautiful powder. And I would say, in my personal opinion, this would, in my repertoire right now, it would replace the Charlotte Tilbury powder, not the Chantecaille powder, because I have tried buffing this into my skin like I would with the Chantecaille. I don't think it really did anything incredible. So honestly, I think the ultimate blur I could get right now would be using the Sisley powder as a primer, using this as my setting powder, and then using the Chantecaille Perfect Blur powder as my finishing powder. And I think I would achieve optimal, maximum blurring. I wouldn't want to call it a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury powder exactly. However, I don't find Charlotte Tilbury's components very compelling. And this feels like a lateral move as far as packaging goes. There's no mirror in it, but like it's the Charlotte Tilbury one's no nice. This could be a good alternative for you to give a try. And I think it's weird because the pricing on this, and I think this is kind of common for drugstore. I don't buy a lot of drugstore. Keep that in mind. But like it was $12 at Target. And then I was at Rite Aid once and I saw it there for like $18. It just seems like it was like the price kind of really, really, really varied. Shop around. I think that you could find this on a deal. Ulta, none of my Ultas carry CoverGirl in store. Based on my experience with it, I wouldn't say it's the most mattifying powder, but I don't really love a super mattifying powder. But this is like Tom approved. I don't delve into a lot of drugstore, but this formula does feel on par with some of the luxury formulas I've tried. If you don't need the packaging, and I don't think I need the packaging because right now I'm using Charlotte Tilbury and the packaging isn't great. So do with that information what you will. I have 2 Charlotte Tilbury powders that I would get through, but I might hold on to this just for a spice of life situation. But I probably would just buy this going forward. I'm not usually that person. So I do think that's a very, very, very impressive powder formula. Let's do bronzer. The Sigma bronzer. I'm telling you, it's great. It's not, again, not blowing my mind, but I'm enjoying using it. I just think it works so well on fair skin. And it's just so hard to find a bronzer for fair skin. And it goes the other way too. I don't be like, it's so hard for people with fair skin. I just think that the undertones for fair bronzers are it's just such a crapshoot. And I think they really nailed something that's a little bit warmer, but still even looks good on something a little more cool toned. My skin's a little more cool leaning on the like neutral leaning cool. I just think it works so well. It doesn't overdo it, and it's really hard to overdo it, even though it is pretty pigmented. I'm just saying. I don't know that I will keep this bronzer. I don't know that it blows my mind so much that I might keep it, but like, I will say it's like something I'm reaching for. Like it's just something I'm reaching for. Kind of stays at the forefront of my mind. So that's always positive. I'm going to highlight really quick with something I've had for a very long time. And then we will come back, I think, for lips. Is that all we have left? I think that's all we have left. Lips. I did want to go back in and do an inner corner shade with this Pretty Wicked palette. It might be too pigmented, but there's like a green shade called Hocus Pocus. I thought that could be a fun contrast. Yeah, that's cute. Let me do some liner and mascara, which I realized that I forgot to do earlier. I'm going to use Cocoa from Victoria Beckham and the Releve mascara from Surratt. Liner, mascara, all on. I realized when I was applying the inner corner shade, I was like, something's not unfinished here. So I want to talk about the Odin's Eye lip products. So each person who collaborated with Odin's Eye in the Legendary Diversa 2 released 3 lip products with their collection. So it was the eyeshadow palette and 3 lip products. If you want to see all of the lip products swatched, I have done lip swatches of them on my Reels and on my YouTube Shorts. So you can check those out there. So if you want to see them in a little more singular situation, just the swatches, that's where I would go to find those. My Instagram is hautemesstom. You can't miss it. I'm right there. So I wanted to put on one of Judy's shades. It's the only matte shade. It's the shade Tulip. And I want to apply it for you because I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did. And I actually really, really, really like it. And as someone who's always, fighting with themselves about the color pink and how they don't like it, but they actually like it, but they don't like it, I did make an I Don't Wear Pink hoodie because it was asked for. And I think the reason I hadn't done it up until that point, like the crew neck comes in much more sizes than the hoodie. I want to, you know, offer merch up that is size inclusive as someone who's fat myself. I want to be able to, but like the constraints at which I have to operate with if I offer merch, which I don't even have to offer merch, but the constraints that I have in the company that I'm going through, you know, I can only have so many options. So that is live. It goes up to 2X, but it is embroidered just like the other one, like the crew neck. So if you would like that, you can seek that in my shop. There's no pressure to buy my merch. I just wanted to let you know that that is there. I made it so that if people wanted that, they could buy it. All right, let me apply this really quick and show it to you, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Pros and cons to these lip products. I like the lip glosses. There was 2 lip gloss formulas. There was just shine. There was a shine and a glow. The shine ones just were like regular lip gloss that had pigment to them. The glow ones had shimmer particles into them. I did prefer the glow ones, but I like a shimmery lip gloss. That's my preference. So I think it was like kind of no surprise that that ended up being my favorite. And then there's this matte lip. And I think it's such a pretty color. I think at first I thought it was going to be a real hot pink. And I have another hot pink lipstick, and I don't think that they look the same, although I haven't held them up next to each other. Watch me do this, and I will feel like, joke's on me. No. That almost is red, and I feel like this is definitely giving... This is Patrick Ta's She's Hard to Get, and then this is the shade Tulips from Odin's Eye. So they are very different. At first, I thought they were going to be very, very similar, and my hesitation was like, I don't wear that color very often, but they're not quite the same. I'm going to take these lipsticks off before I forget and get them everywhere. I love this matte formula. It reminds me a little bit of the Kaleidos Lip Lab Cloud Lip Clay. I don't know why I can't say that. It reminds me of a lot of that formula, but I do feel that this gives a more blotted experience. And I think this is a little more comfortable in my opinion. I don't think that the Cloud Clays, Lip Clays are... I don't think the Kaleidos... I don't think the Kaleidos formula is uncomfortable. I just feel like this one is more comfortable. And I just like the finish of this one a little bit better. And they're both matte, but this one is almost more powdery matte. And if that makes sense, like it just feels like a blotted lip. It's it's really beautiful. And I am going to keep this one, but I do have a grudge. So I'm keeping 3 of the lip colors from the collections. And luckily for me, I had one favorite from each of their collections. However, if you buy all of the shades from Annette's collection, all of the shades from Tina's collection, or all of the shades from Judy's collection, the component is the same and they are completely opaque. So I would have no idea what shades were in here if they were all from one of them. I'm keeping one of each of them. However, I have another one from Judy nearby. Another one's I kind of set aside because I know I'm kind of done with them. That's the same component. And there's a third shade. So like I said, if you buy all of the ones that Judy created, they're all going to be in this. So you would have to store them up and look at the shade name every time. And I think that's a flaw. I think that lip products should be clear. Now, I obviously have some other lipsticks like this. If I bought all the Patrick Ta ones, I wouldn't have no idea. But when it comes to like a liquid product, I appreciate the aesthetics of this. Like, that's really beautiful. And like, I think that all of them really kind of go together. Like, they're all aesthetically pleasing to go together. Like, I think that's a really pretty concept. However, I just think in application, I would like to be able to look at my Odin's Eye lip products, be able to just see without having to like kind of look through them. But because, well, I actually also might keep this one from Judy. So if I do end up keeping that one, as well as this one from Judy, this matte lip, it's like I'm not going to know which one's which. We'll talk more about which shades I chose and why at another time. But I just wanted to let you know I'm not a fan of the packaging. In practicality. In beauty, I think that they're very beautiful. In aesthetics, I think they're very, very beautiful. But in practice, I don't think it's a great idea. So I just wanted to say that. I don't find this powder super mattifying, and I find that, you know, this has a little bit dewier of a finish. So all in all, I think I don't need to spray my face, and that's the look, baby. Look at that. So cool. So cool. We're going to do the briefest of run-throughs of everything we tried today. I'm liking what's happening so far in this palette. I like the look I did today. Next time I use it, I want to challenge myself to incorporate the grungier shades with the pinks and purples to see if I can come to a conclusion about how to make them all come together. Something I didn't get to today, these are the single shades that they sent me from Bellabeautébar. So we'll talk about those at another time. Loving this CoverGirl foundation. If you're into this kind of thing and you don't want to keep buying Rose Inc or the Chanel, I don't see why you wouldn't like this. And I also, the packaging between the Rose Inc and this one, they're both plastic. So this one just says CoverGirl. So again, it's not like you're losing the luxury experience. Same thing with the powder. I've tried some luxury powders that are not as nice as this, and this is really good. I love a luxury moment, and I still am. I'm still a luxury girly. If the luxury formula's packaging isn't adding to the experience, then to me there's no point. I like to have nice things, and I'm not always about performance 100%, but I'm just saying, it's an option. The Sigma Cream Blush, I would like to use this more and remember it a little bit more, just doesn't stay at the forefront of my mind. The Sigma Bronzer, as I said earlier, is that girl. Really is old reliable. The brushes from Bellabeautébar, I like some of them, don't like some of them. The silicone applicators, big fan. I think they're useful. I'm gonna unlock their complete potential. Like I've been loving playing with those. I think, and the lip product, love. There's not a lot to dislike about the face of makeup I did today. Anyway, that wraps up the video. If you happen to be new to my channel and you stuck it out, thank you so much. I would love to have you subscribe. You either hate watched me and you want to come back, or you liked it and you would like to come back. So the subscribe button is the best way to ensure that you will see me in your feed again. And I would appreciate to be there. But this isn't all exclusively what I do. I do a lot of testing new makeup, but the rest of my content is focused about loving the things that I already own. But I like to do testing of new faces. And even, some of these things have been shown on my channel a couple of times now. And I like to sort out my feelings on makeup as my feelings on the makeup changes with you. So that's what this style of video is, but we do a lot of conscious consumerism here too. I'm also on Patreon and I have channel memberships there. I do one additional video every month. I think I'm going to switch up the format of that next month. I have an idea. I have some ideas. There might be multiple videos, assuming that I can get myself together enough to do multiple videos, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Anyway, so you can join that if you want. That's just an additional way to support me, not the better way to support me. Liking, commenting, and sharing is always the best way to support me. But thank you to all my current patrons and members. You guys are so fabulous, and I really, really appreciate what you do. Oh, also my podcast with Khaki of Khaki Reviews Beauty. That's also on my Patreon, or on her Patreon if you prefer to support her. You can do that too. But just join one of our Patreons at the $1 tier, and then you will get 4 episodes of that if you're into that. I have merch, as I mentioned before. You can check that out. It's down below. You should be able to see it and click it. And then Instagram, hautemesstom, if you want to follow me there. And that's it. My camera is I'm overheating. So if you could shut the fuck up, bitch. And I'm gonna shut the fuck up, bitch. Anyway, remember to follow your haute and you'll find me. And I'll see you in a video very soon. Go forth. Tits out. Bye-bye.